All right, welcome to the weekend. Uh, last video, I'm reading a PDF published by one of the brightest minds out there currently. Graduated from Columbia, top of his class, at the age of like 18 or something like that. I think his first job was right out of school was um, working for OpenAI. He might have done something before that. We can look at his work history on LinkedIn. Okay, so he's the kind of guy that is building his own. Uh, he's a professional researcher. He's building his own companies. One of the smartest minds out there. He used to work on the super alignment team of OpenAI. He's moved on, and now he's starting his own like hedge fund. So this person wrote a large PDF, and he created a website as well. It's called situationalawareness.ai is the website, but you can download the full series as a PDF. The links won't work if you do that, but for me, it's easier to bookmark my progress through it and return where I left off if I do that. So what this outlines is it outlines the next decade ahead, the next 10 years, what that's going to look like when it comes to advancements in AI. And what the author's making a point here that this is a rate of technological development that we've never seen before. It's faster than just about any other rate of technological development. And when you think about what that means in terms of what your computer used to look like 10, 20 years ago, that's it's going to cause big changes. So it's going to increase by a measurable amount of orders of magnitude. And if you look at the way things have increased in the past, there's a clear trend, and it should increase by about 2 orders of magnitude by the year 2027. So if we think of what an order of magnitude increase is, this is a increase in units by a factor of 10. So if you have a soccer ball that is about, it's about 30 centimeters in diameter, a order of magnitude bigger soccer ball is now 300 centimeters in diameter, bigger than any person, impossible to play real soccer with now. It's too big. Beyond that, 2 orders of magnitude, it's now half the size of the stadium. If we the Epcot Center in Disney, the sphere for that, it is not big enough, actually, this giant ball to be as big as a 2 order of magnitude increase of a golf ball. It's about half the size. So a 2 order of magnitude increase in something is very large, and we will have this by the year 2027. A 10 order of magnitude increase, that's taking a soccer ball, to the size of 16 million moons. The size of a fraction of the sun. I think about a fourth of the sun. So, and then another increase above that, these are the kind of changes we're going to see in AI. We could very easily get a 10 order of magnitude increase in AI beyond the decade ahead. Possibly even within the next decade ahead. That I think the author is saying that could be possible. And once you get to 7 orders of magnitude, now it's the size of a single moon. So we're going from, in a very, very short amount of time, these chat GPT programs and the underlying technologies being what they are, to being something so astronomically bigger and better that nothing about the way they are today will be the same. will constantly be using terms like it wasn't able to do this. And we're even using those terms now. It wasn't able to have built-in voice capability. It wasn't able to have the ability to read screenshots. It wasn't able to meaningfully contribute to work to where the point where it actually has a role in somebody's workday. We're already using those kinds of statements, and those kinds of statements are going to get even more unbelievable to what it can do and what it couldn't before. Even at, there's going to be a point in the future where people with special needs, with disabilities, will become smarter and more effective using AI than the smartest people in the world are today, because they will be able, if they can follow the instructions of the AI and use the AI as a accessibility tool. So it is going to change everything we know about everything, and it's going to happen fast. It's going to happen by the end of this year. It's going to become so much better than it is now that it's unrecognizable. But by 2027, it should be 2 orders of magnitude, according to the trend lines, better than it is now, which means it blows up from a soccer ball to something the size of half the soccer stadium. Not quite the moon. That's going to take 7 orders of magnitude. That's going to be a bit later than 2027. But in the decade ahead, it could be possible that it increases that much. And by that point, that's where the smartest person around today will not be as smart, will not be as effective as the least smart person around today that is able to use the AIs to their advantage. If you're able to follow the instructions of the AI to prompt it, and you can be smarter and more effective than anyone else currently existing on the planet at the point where the AI capabilities increase by several orders of magnitude. That will be coming very soon, if not by the end of the decade. And I will say already for me, it's to the point where I am better with it. It's now, sometimes it's still not quite there yet. Sometimes it can be relied upon and it can hallucinate, of course, but even without hallucinating, it's not very disagreeable. It won't say you're doing this wrong, do it this way. So it can kind of lead you on a little bit. But that's the point of this document. By the end of the decade, it's going to be so far advanced that it will be unrecognizable to what it is today, and it will really reshape what society is going to look like. So let's continue on with reading that, because that is it's been fascinating so far. In the last video, I finished the first section. So this is a 5-part PDF. It is very long. It is 165 pages. The first part was making that case that we know how fast it's accelerating in technological development, that it's accelerating faster than any other technology has accelerated before, pretty much, that it's already this PDF was put out in this year and this month, at the beginning of this month, the beginning of June 2024, it was put out. And at the time this was put out, it is ChatGPT as you know it, as you pull it up, as of now, June 2024, is able to engage with you and contribute to intellectual pursuits about at the level of a smart high schooler. It's passing high school exams better than high schoolers are able to. It's passing things like the LSAT. It's doing very well on benchmarks. It's doing well on benchmarks that are designed so that only the best and brightest specialized PhD students can do well on these benchmark exams. It's not quite doing as good as they are yet, but it's getting there. The next step is for it to start outperforming professional researchers that are doing scientific endeavors to find things in the universe that are true. It will get better at doing that than any human can, and thus it will find more things that are true. So the future is unimaginable when this becomes several orders of magnitude greater than it is now. Even when it becomes half an order of magnitude greater, a tenth of an order of magnitude greater, because that's the point where it's better than these researchers. It writes its own papers about how to develop itself. It writes papers for other fields. It solves the whole list of unsolved problems for the Clay Mathematics Institute. It can do the same work as the people. There are people working on these problems, and it will be able to work faster, more effectively, more deeply, and it will be able to write better papers too, that even just an average person can read and understand what the answer was to these problems. So that is potentially coming even before we have such dramatic increases in orders of magnitude. And the reason that I actually believe that now is because it was outlined in this first section. It's already operating at the level of a bright high schooler, and just around the corner is operating even brighter than that. So it made the case for that by looking at the trend lines, counting the orders of magnitude it's been increasing so far, looking at the last 4 years of progress. It went from GPT-2 to GPT-4. It's important to understand that GPT, it means the underlying technology that a program like ChatGPT is built on. And when this talks about GPT, it talks about like the academic researchers using it. So the best and the brightest at developing it, at prompting it, are coming to these conclusions with it, which is important to consider, because when it comes to the progress from ChatGPT 2, I'm going to do this a lot, from the underlying technology behind ChatGPT, which is ChatGPT 4. Before that, it was ChatGPT 2 was the underlying technology that existed before there was ChatGPT, and it was not powerful enough. It could barely even produce coherent sentences. And the point is, it could produce good output when used by the best and brightest in the world at developing that technology. When used by the average person like me, paying $20 a month to use it, ChatGPT that runs on ChatGPT-4 now, on GPT-4 now, can do all kinds of things. It can make you a personal web page. It can create calendar notifications that you can put on your calendar. It can do so many things. You can talk to it as if it were a person. So that's the shift from version 2 of the underlying technology to version 4. Version 2, the best and the brightest could make it do something kind of cool, but mostly it really couldn't do much at all. GPT-4, me, I could do so many things with this. I can use it in so many ways. It's mind-boggling just how much progress has been made. So then the next, it talks about the OOMs, which is the orders of magnitude. It counts them based on the trend lines in the graph. And it talks about the multifaceted reasons why it's making progress. So it doesn't matter if things go wrong in this technology. It doesn't matter if it runs out of data. It doesn't matter if it runs out of funding. It doesn't matter if it runs out of hardware. It's a multifaceted approach to making this better. There's advancements in the data, there's advancement in the hardware, in the funding, in the talent that works on it. There's advancements in unhobbling it. If everything froze and we couldn't advance it anymore by giving it more compute, by giving it more money, by giving it more power, anything like that, we could unhobble it. We could find out things that it does badly and have it do those things better. For example, it blurts out loud. It says the first thing that comes to its mind. So if I say morning routine for productivity, this did not come after deliberation. It's just being printed out right away. It's not having an internal dialogue or consulting with a panel of experts or referencing a textbook to create this here. So that's a hobbling. Imagine if you went to school, the teacher asked you a question, and you just were never allowed to study at all. You always had to answer first thing on your mind. And if you got the question wrong, that's your score for the rest. You get an F, and you never get the chance to learn the material and answer again and get a higher score. That's where ChatGPT is at. It doesn't have internal deliberation, and it's hobbled in that regard. So the next 4 years, it's going to continue to increase for multiple reasons. And there's not any one thing that can shut it down, because the gains are happening through a multifaceted contributions. So from GPT-2 to GPT-4, there was roughly a 4.5 to 6 order of magnitude base effective compute scale up, which is, again, just one of the things that makes it better. There are things beyond just adding more compute that makes it better. So in the next 4 years, nobody's stopping compute. Governments aren't in it. Big businesses aren't in it. The compute is not going to stop. We should expect a 3 to 6 order of magnitude increase of base effective compute scale up in the next 4 years. Same thing for other advancements. This is the thing that people are really investing in. So one thing I kind of didn't understand from the author is he's saying, because the rate of increase is so great and it will increase by so many orders of magnitude, we will have AGI. And that's where he's kind of loses me, because if whatever we have now is not AGI, how will making what we have now better create an AGI? It's like, if you have a car and you just keep making that car faster by giving it a bigger engine, giving it a driver that is more skilled, putting it on better roads, it's not going to turn into an airplane. It's still going to be a car. It's just going to be very well driven and very fast and easy to handle and look nice. So that's where the author kind of loses me. So let's move on to the next section, and hopefully that might get cleared up soon. The next section is From AGI to Superintelligence, the Intelligence Explosion. So AI progress won't stop at human level. Hundreds of millions of AGIs could automate AI research, compressing a decade of algorithmic progress, 5+ orders of magnitude in 1 year. And 7 orders of magnitude is turning a basketball into the size of the moon. We would rapidly go from human level to vastly superhuman AI systems. The power and peril of superintelligence would be dramatic. Let an unintelligent machine be defined as a machine that can far surpass all the intellectual activities of any man, however clever. Since the design of machines is one of these intellectual activities, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines. There would then unquestionably be an intelligence explosion, and the intelligence of man would be left far behind. Thus, the first ultra-intelligent machine is the last invention the man will ever make. Okay, so it's already kind of making more sense. It's like, as you're building something that is capable of academic research, if it is possible to have AGI, that is something it will be able to solve, just as it can solve all of these Clay Mathematics Institute problems. It should be able to solve the problem of AGI that a lot of people are working on right now. All right, so the bomb and the super. In the common imagination, the Cold War's terrors principally trace back to Los Alamos with the invention of the atomic bomb. But the bomb alone is perhaps overrated. Going from the bomb to the super hydrogen bombs was arguably just as important. Right, and that's because of mutually assured destruction. The original bombs were thus that, hydrogen bombs are very powerful. In the Tokyo air raids, hundreds of bombers dropped thousands of tons of conventional bombs on the city. Later that year, Little Boy dropped on Hiroshima, unleashed similar destructive power in a single device. But just 7 years later, Teller's hydrogen bomb multiplied yields 1,000 once again. So that would be 2 orders of magnitude more destructive than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, and that was quite destructive. A single bomb with more explosive power than all of the bombs dropped in the entirety of World War II combined. The bomb was a more efficient bombing campaign. The super was a country-annihilating device. So it will be with AGI and super intelligence. So this is what these people are worried about, is when you think about what it means for it to grow up to be the size of the sun, we become chimpanzees, it becomes humans. Humans don't treat chimpanzees very well. And, that's kind of giving us a lot of credit for being chimpanzees. We'll probably be more like cows, pigs, and chickens, especially if it's not aligned in a good way. Cows, pigs, and chickens, I think the average cow, pig, and chicken, if you just pluck it off of the planet, is in a factory farm, and it doesn't have food that it can eat that it's preferred. It has food that makes its body a certain way so that it can be consumed. It can't move around the way it probably would prefer to. It moves in a way. It's basically only designed to be killed and eaten by humanity, and we could easily find ourselves. We would be lucky to find ourselves in a scenario like that, depending on how badly superintelligence can go. We would be very lucky to end up like house dogs. Probably wouldn't be so lucky to end up like chimpanzees, because our environment might get destroyed. But to end up like a factory farmed animal would be very suboptimal. Okay, so and much of the Cold War's perversities, C.F. Daniel Ellis's book, stemmed from merely replacing A-bombs with H-bombs without adjusting nuclear policy and war plans to the massive capability increase. AI progress won't stop at human level. After initially learning from the best human games, AlphaGo started playing against itself, and it quickly became superhuman, playing extremely creative and complex moves that a human would never have come up with. We discussed the path to AGI in the previous piece. Once we get AGI, we'll turn the crank one more time, or 2 or 3 more times, and AI systems will become superhuman, vastly superhuman. They will become qualitatively smarter than you or I, much smarter, perhaps similar to how you or I are qualitatively smarter than an elementary schooler. Yeah, and that's just right around the corner. As I said, it will be. We might look like insects or ants compared to it. Yeah. The jump to super intelligence would be wild enough at the current rapid but continuous rate of AI progress. If we could make the jump to AGI in 4 years from GPT-4, what might another 4 or 8 years after that bring? But it could be much faster than that if AGI automates AI research itself. Once we get AGI, we won't just have one AGI. I'll walk through the numbers later, but given inference GPU fleets by then, we'll likely be able to run many millions of them, perhaps 100 million human equivalents, and soon after at 10 times or greater human speed. Even if they can't yet walk around the office or make coffee, they will be able to do machine learning research on a computer. Rather than a few hundred researchers and engineers at a leading AI lab, we'll have more than 100,000 times that, furiously working on algorithmic breakthroughs day and night. Yes, recursive self-improvement, but no sci-fi required. They would only need to accelerate the existing trend lines of algorithmic progress, currently at about a half orders of magnitudes per year. So this is something important to understand. This author isn't just a crazy guy on the street on a soapbox saying, oh, it's going to become so crazy, man. There's going to be billions of these things. No, he's looking at the progress of the last 4 years, and he's saying, based on this progress, which will continue. I mean, there's going to be a point where we will hit a data wall where we don't have enough data to feed it, but it's a multifaceted growth. There's algorithmic progress is just one is not that. It's not dependent on whether or not we fed it all the data we can yet. So he's saying that we'll have more than 100,000 times that based on the progress that has happened recently. So he's not just pulling these out of his hat. He's saying it is very likely, like he's saying that if everything stays the same now for another few years, which we have every reason to expect. In fact, we have reason to expect that it will probably speed up beyond that. This is what the world's going to look like. And this is why it's labeled situational awareness, because this is not sci-fi. This is not fiction. This is not just some crazy guy pulling having a mental health episode and being like, whoa, or like being on mushrooms. And, this is somebody who used to work at OpenAI on ChatGPT, on the alignment of AI, a graduate of Columbia, valedictorian, one of the brightest minds we have, saying based on the trend lines, based on how progress has been, the rate of progress so far, if the rate of progress continues, these will be the implications of that over the next decade. Automated AI research could probably compress a human decade of algorithmic progress into less than a year. and that seems conservative. That'd be 5 or more orders of magnitude. Another GPT-2 to GPT-4 sized jump on top of AGI, a qualitative jump like that from a preschooler to a smart high schooler, on top of AI systems already as smart as expert AI researchers / engineers. So figure 24 is automated AI research could accelerate algorithmic progress, leading to more than 5 orders of magnitude of effective compute gains in a year. The AI systems we'd have by the end of an intelligence explosion would be vastly smarter than humans. So, so here's the years going, and this is all, the current year is 2024 here. So this is all very new. Effective compute normalized to ChatGPT. So something that's worse than ChatGPT. For example, ChatGPT-2 that we have here. It is operating at the level of preschooler. But now as time goes on, through benchmark testing, we know how that's increasing and how it's increasing over time. The current day, and this is interesting because because this is when this indicates when it first started behaving like a smart high schooler. So that was a while ago. That was in 2023. So already in 2024, it's smarter than that, and it should get to the point where it can automate AI research easily by 2028. But it's potentially able to do that as soon as 2026. There are several plausible bottlenecks, including limited compute for experiments, complementarities with humans, and algorithmic complementaries, right? I think that's complementaries. Oh, complementarities. So like humans using it in novel ways that speed up its progress. So there are several plausible bottlenecks included limited. Oh, no. So these are bottlenecks. So the first bottleneck could be limited compute for experiments. So this is what you hear Mark Zuckerberg talking about. This is what you hear the author talking about. $1 trillion data centers that pull a measurement of wattage of power that cannot be provided by current power plants that we have. Even if it has dedicated, specially made power plants, it just requires more power than we can give it. So that could be a plausible bottleneck. The second one could be this word, which I just learned now. And this is complementarities with humans. So what that means is so complementarity. So it's using its. There should be. So explains how. Okay, so a bottleneck could be a complementarity with humans. There's no way to use it. I guess compatibility would be a kind of a synonym, but yeah, a bottleneck is humans can't use it anymore, which like what would happen then? And I feel like that would happen at some point, and we would see that as a bottleneck. It just looks like it's not progressing anymore, but we've now become the chimpanzees, and now it's so smart we can't even interact with it anymore. We can learn some sign language from Jane Goodall, but really we just can't do anything with it. It no longer has any complementarity with humans. And the third bottleneck, which is very plausible, is algorithmic progress becoming harder. which I'll address, but none seem sufficient to definitively slow things down. Before we know it, we would have superintelligence on our hands. AI systems vastly smarter than humans, capable of novel, creative, complicated behavior we couldn't even begin to understand, perhaps even a small civilization of billions of them. Their power would be vast too, applying super intelligence to R&D, research and development, in other fields. Explosive progress would broaden from just machine learning research. Soon they'd solve robotics, make dramatic leaps across other fields of science and technology within years, and an industrial explosion would follow. Superintelligence would likely provide a decisive military advantage and unfold untold powers of destruction. We will be faced with one of the most intense and volatile moments of human history. Yeah, and you can imagine what that would be like. What if the most commonly spoken language changed overnight? I mean, why wouldn't the superintelligence do that? Like, why wouldn't it just use a different language? I feel like there's a lot of limitations in human language that a superintelligence just, it's that unhobbling. Like why deal with the human language? And now, the most successful, smartest people in the world are those that learned the special language that the AI required of them to learn in order to be the benefactor of the largest improvements. All right, so automating AI research. We don't need to automate everything, just AI research. A common objection to transformative impacts of AGI is that it will be hard for the AI to do everything. Look at robotics, for instance, doubters say. That will be a gnarly problem. Even if AI is cognitively at the level of PhDs, or take automating biology research and development, which might require lots of physical lab work and human experiments. But we don't need robotics. We don't need many things for AI to automate AI research. The jobs of AI researchers and engineers at leading labs can be done fully virtually and don't run into real-world bottlenecks the same way, though it will still be limited by compute, which I'll address later. And the job of an AI researcher is fairly straightforward in the grand scheme of things. Read machine learning literature and come up with new questions or ideas, implement experiments to test those ideas, interpret the results, and repeat. This all seems squarely in the domain where simple extrapolations of current AI capabilities could easily take us to or beyond the levels of the best humans by the end of 2027. So the job of an AI researcher is also a job that AI researchers at AI labs just, know very well. So it'll be particularly intuitive to them to optimize models to be good at that job. And there will be huge incentives to do so to help them accelerate their research and their lab's competitive edge. So that's a good point. What else would you do as an AI developer except to create an AI that helps you become a better AI developer? Like, if that's your bread and butter, if that's what you're devoting your life to, why not have that be one of the first things that it actually can do? It's worth emphasizing just how straightforward and hacky some of the biggest machine learning breakthroughs of the last decade have been. Just add some normalization. Later norm / batch norm. Or do f of x plus x instead of f of x, residual connections. Or fix an implementation bug, Kaplan, leading to chinchilla scaling laws. AI research can be automated. And automating AI research is all it takes to kick off extraordinary feedback loops. This suggests an important point in terms of the sequencing of risks from AI, by the way. A common AI threat model people point to is AI systems developing novel bioweapons and that posing catastrophic risk. But if AI research is more straightforward to automate than biology research and development, we might get an intelligence explosion before we get extreme AI biothreats. This matters, for example, with regard to whether we should expect bio warning shots in time before things get crazy in AI. So imagine a smarter world, and in the context of another pandemic where the right answers are out there, people understand the right answers, they follow the right answers, and just through their preventative efforts based on this good information that they're getting, it's mitigated. So it does matter a lot. What sorts of advancements come first, and it actually looks like I agree with the author. Not only is it practically something that makes sense to develop AI capabilities, since it helps the AI researchers themselves be better at AI research, it's also ethically kind of the way to go too, because a smarter world, especially with an aligned machine, can mitigate some of the ill effects of things like developing a novel bioweapon. All right, so we'd be able to run millions of copies, and soon at 10 times human speed, of the automated AI researchers. Even by 2027, we should expect GPU fleets in the tens of millions. Training clusters alone should be approaching around 3 orders of magnitude larger, already putting us at 10 million plus A100. So that's the atomic bomb equivalents, I believe. I think. Inference fleets should be much larger still. More on this in Section 3, Racing to the $1 Trillion Cluster. That would let us run many millions of copies of our automated AI researchers, perhaps 100 million human researcher equivalents, running day and night. There's some assumptions that flow into the exact numbers, including that humans think at 100 tokens per minute. Just a rough order of magnitude estimate. For example, consider your internal monologue. And extrapolating external trends and chinchilla scaling laws on per token inference costs for frontier models remaining in the same ballpark. We'd also want to reserve some of the GPUs for running experiments and training new models. Full calculation in a footnote. All right, so as noted earlier, the GPT-4 API costs less today than GPT-3 when it was released. This suggests that the trend of inference efficiency wins is fast enough to keep inference costs roughly constant even as models get much more powerful. Similarly, there have been huge inference cost wins in just the year since GPT-4 was released. For example, the current version of Gemini 1.5 Pro outperforms the original GPT-4 while being roughly 10 times cheaper. We can also ground this somewhat more by considering chinchilla scaling laws. On chinchilla scaling laws, model size and thus inference costs grow with the square root of training cost. For example, half the orders of magnitude of the OOM scale-up of effective compute. However, in the previous piece, I suggested that algorithmic efficiency was advancing at roughly the same pace as compute scale-up. For example, it made up roughly half of the OOMs of effective compute scale-up. If these algorithmic wins also translate into inference efficiency, that means that the algorithmic efficiencies would compensate for naive increase in inference cost. In practice, training compute efficiencies often, but not always, translate into inference efficiency wins. However, there are also separately many inference efficiency wins that are not training efficiency wins. So, at least in terms of the rough ballpark, assuming that the dollars per token of frontier models stay roughly the same doesn't seem crazy. So, yeah, it's not going to get more expensive over time. Of course, they'll use more tokens, for example, more test time compute, but that's already part of the calculation here by pricing human equivalents as 100 tokens per minute. All right, so that's footnote 35. Footnote 36 is the full calculation. So this is a math genius who wrote this. Not sure if I'll be able to follow along. I'll give it a shot. So GPT-4T is about 3 cents per 1,000 tokens. We suppose we should have 100, hundreds, tens of millions of. Okay, so A100 is I don't know what A100 is. A100 equivalents, which would cost. I think that's a form of ChatGPT of the AI technology, which costs around $1 hour per GPU if A100 equivalents. I think it's hardware. I'm not sure. If we used the API costs to translate GPUs into tokens generated, I think an A100 is a type of GPU. That implies tens of millions GPUs times $1 per GPU hour times 33,000 tokens divided by tokens per dollar. And that equals around 1 trillion tokens per hour. Suppose a human does 100 tokens per minute of thinking. That means a human equivalent is 6,000 tokens per hour. Wow. 1 trillion tokens per hour divided by 6,000 tokens per human hour equals about 200 million human equivalents. For example, as if running 200 million human researchers day and night. Wow. And even if we reserve half the GPUs for experiment compute, we get 100 million human researcher equivalents. Dang. Another way of thinking about it is that given inference fleets in 2027, we should be able to generate an entire internet's worth of tokens every single day. The previous footnote estimated around 1 T, that stands for trillion, tokens per hour. So 24 trillion tokens per day. In the previous piece, I noted that a public deduplicated common crawl had around 30 trillion tokens. So that means going out and gathering the data from the internet. So it should be able to process. So tokens is like another word for data. I mean, tokens are their own thing, but like it's going to be able to use that amount of data to do things. Humans can only one human can only use about 100 tokens per minute, but it will be able to use trillions. In any case, the exact numbers don't matter that much beyond a simple plausibility demonstration. Moreover, our automated AI researchers may soon be able to run at much faster than human speed. By taking some inference penalties, we can trade off running fewer copies in exchange for running them at faster serial speed. For example, we could go from around 5 times human speed to around 100 times human speed by only running 1 million copies of the automated researchers. Footnote 38, Jacob Steinhardt estimates that K, and I think this is an exponent symbol, so K to the 3 parallel copies of a model can be replaced with a single model that is k to the 2 faster, given some math on inference trade-offs with a tiling scheme that theoretically works even for k of 1000 or more. I'm not sure why there's a different, because it should be the same symbol and not 1100. Suppose initial speeds were already around 5 times human speed, based on, say, GPT-4 speed on release. Then, by taking this inference penalty with k equals around 5, we'd be able to run around 1 million automated AI researchers at around 100 times human speed. More importantly, the first algorithmic innovation the automated AI researchers work on is getting a 10 times or 100 times speed up. Gemini 1.5 Flash is, and this is an underlying AI technology, which is an alternative to GPT-4, is 10 times faster than the originally released GPT-4. Merely a year later, while providing similar performance to the originally released GPT-4 on reasoning benchmarks. If that's the algorithmic speed up a few hundred human researchers can find in a year, a few hundred, the automated AI researchers will be able to find similar wins very quickly. So this is a few hundred human researchers, and man, that is, and here's the key takeaway here. Oh, and we do have a footnote. This source benchmarks throughput of Flash at approximately 6 times GPT-4 Turbo, and GPT-4 Turbo was faster than original GPT-4. Latency is probably also roughly 10 times faster. And let me... So tell me about yourself. Tell me if you're running GPT-4 Turbo, GPT-4, or the original GPT-4, or like just more about what you're running. Like, there's also Gemini 1.5 Flash. Like, are you running that, or are you running something else? Okay. Yeah, so it's running Turbo. And part of that might be because I'm paying. Yeah, it's running Turbo. So that is, here's the key takeaway. Expect 100 million automated researchers, each working at 100 times human speed, not long after we begin to be able to automate human research. So they'll each be able to do a year's worth of work in a few days. The increase in research effort compared to a few hundred puny human researchers at a leading AI lab today, working at a puny one-time human speed, will be extraordinary. So the moment we get AGI, the moment we get automated researchers, is the moment we have out of control super intelligence, and we have things so unimaginable that the world just becomes magical again. I mean, imagine living in a time before cars, and then what, seeing the shift between that and what we have today with cars. Like, that's how we're gonna know the answers to the universe. All of the clay mathematics institute problems will be solved. Like, what kind of a world does that look like, where all of these problems are solved? All right, so this could easily dramatically accelerate existing trends of algorithmic progress, compressing a decade of advances into a year. We need not postulate anything totally novel for automated AI research to intensely speed up AI progress. Walking through the numbers in the previous piece, we saw that algorithmic progress has been a central driver of deep learning progress in the last decade, we noticed a trend line of around 5 orders of magnitude per year on algorithmic efficiencies alone, around zero point 0.5, with additional large algorithmic gains from unhobbling on top. I think the import of algorithmic progress has been underrated by many, and properly appreciating it is important for appreciating the possibility of an intelligence explosion. Could our millions of automated AI researchers soon working at 10x or 100x human speed compress the algorithmic progress human researchers would have found in a decade into a year instead? That would be 5+ orders of magnitude in a year. Don't just imagine 100 million junior software engineer interns here. We'll get those earlier in the next couple of years. And that would make a big difference. I mean, that's kind of what we have now. Like, honestly, in the work I do, like, you know, it's different than that. It's like basically what I have is, I mean, it's not like super. Like, it's good at reminding me about things. It's like, oh, what was the bash command when I do this? Oh, I want to do this. How do I do it? You know, it's good at that, but it's, yeah, real automated AI researchers be very smart, which is kind of funny that the author. I don't think that's intentional, but it's a. I like that's probably my favorite thing I've read so far from the author, that statement. And in addition to the raw quantitative advantage, automated researchers will have other enormous advantages over human researchers. So if there's one thing to take away so far, it's real automated AI researchers be very smart. That's a funny sentence there. They'll be able to read every single ML paper ever written, have been able to deeply think about every single previous experiment ever run at the lab, learn in parallel from each of their copies, and rapidly accumulate the equivalent of millennia of experience. They'll be able to develop far deeper intuitions about ML than any other human. They'll be easily able to write millions of lines of complex code, keep the entire codebase in context, and spend human decades or more checking and rechecking every line of code for bugs and optimizations. They'll be superbly competent at all parts of the job. You won't have to individually train up each automated AI researcher. Indeed, training and onboarding 100 million new human hires would be difficult. Instead, you can just teach and onboard one of them and then make replicas. And you won't have to worry about politicking, cultural acclamation, and so on. And they'll work with peak energy and focus day and night. Vast numbers of automated AI researchers will be able to share content, perhaps even assessing each other's latent space, and so on, enabling much more efficient collaboration and coordination compared to human researchers. And of course, however smart our initial automated AI researchers would be, we'd soon be able to make further orders of magnitude jumps, producing even smarter models, even more capable at automated AI research. Imagine being an automated Alec Radford. And I don't know who that is. I probably need to know who that is. Imagine 100 million automated Alec Radfords. Alec Radford is an incredibly gifted and prolific researcher / engineer at OpenAI, behind many of the most important advances, though he flies under the radar some, probably because he's so busy doing this. That's kind of a red flag, in my opinion. Anyone who's like in the media a lot is like, you're not doing the thing. If you have time to be famous, then you're not a researcher anymore. You're a famous person. I think just about every researcher at OpenAI would agree that they had 10 Alec Radfords. That if they had 10 Alec Radfords, let alone 100 or 1,000 or 1 million, running at 10x or 100x human speed, they could fairly quickly solve very many of their problems, even with various other bottlenecks. More in a moment. Compressing a decade of algorithmic progress into a year as a result seems very plausible. A 10 times acceleration from a million times more research effort, which seems conservative if anything. That would be more than five orders of magnitude right there. 5 orders of magnitude of algorithmic wins would be a similar scale up to what produced a GPT-2 to GPT-4 jump, a capability jump from about a preschooler to a smart high schooler. Imagine such qualitative jump on top of AGI, on top of Alec Radford. It's strikingly plausible we'd go from AGI to superintelligence very quickly, perhaps in 1 year. So yeah, the moment we hit AGI and we have AI researchers is the moment we get superintelligence very fast. So let me follow the rule on this channel. If I see an interesting name, the rule is to follow them on LinkedIn. So let's follow Alec Radford on LinkedIn. I think this is probably him here. He's the head of research at this company. Yeah, so this is a researcher. I mean, it could be someone else. Let me see here. So it could be another AI researcher that is not Alec. Okay, so I guess he just didn't update his LinkedIn. This is 11 years, so he probably moved on since then and didn't update it. I'll follow him anyway. I don't think he has any posts, but I think you see like their connections or whatever if you follow them. So that's definitely the Alec Radford that is being discussed by this author. So it looks like he has his own blog. So a lot of papers probably. He has his own. Now here's his official LinkedIn. Which is the one I'm following. And then he has his own Google Scholar account as well with all of his papers. Wow, and this is an AI photo of him. Yeah, created with Midjourney. That's not what he actually looks like. This is what he actually looks like, unless that's AI as well. Okay, so let's see here. So yeah, we don't have to spend a lot of time. Videos are kind of nice. You can let's see if he has like a YouTube channel and subscribe to him on YouTube. Oh, cool. So we can kind of see what sort of so this is a hand-picked selection of the best content on YouTube on this. So we can kind of see how well it overlaps with who I'm subscribing to. So I'm subscribing to David Bombal, of course. He's great. I think I'm subscribing to Lex Friedman's stuff. It's kind of hit and miss for me, but sometimes when it hits, it really, really hits. And then, yeah, I think I'm subscribed to this channel as well. Yeah, this is the Wes Roth channel. Yeah, so this is really good. I recommend these watching some of these curated videos here. And it looks like he's got curated videos for all sorts of things here. Yeah, he's got education videos. On this channel, I did a Jeremy Howard's course. Uh, yeah, so yeah, great resource. I'm glad I found this. I'll probably include this in the links to this video. In the description, I mean. All right, so moving on, possible bottlenecks. While this basic story is surprisingly strong and is supported by thorough economic modeling work, there are some real and plausible bottlenecks that will probably slow down an automated AI research intelligence explosion. I'll give a summary here and then discuss these in more detail in the optional sections below for those interested. Limited compute. AI research doesn't just take good ideas, thinking, or math, but run experiments to get empirical signal on your ideas. 1,000,000 times more research effort via automated research labor won't mean 1,000,000 times faster progress, because compute will still be limited, and limited compute for experiments will be the bottleneck. Still, even if this won't be a 1,000,000 times speed up, I find it hard to imagine that the automated AI researchers couldn't use the compute at least 10 times more effectively. They'll be able to get incredible ML intuition, having internalized the whole ML literature and every previous experiment ever run, and centuries equivalent of thinking time to figure out exactly the right experiment to run, configure it optimally, and get maximum value of information. They'll be able to spend centuries equivalent of engineer time before running even tiny experiments to avoid bugs and get them right on the first try. They can make trade-offs to economize on compute by focusing on the biggest wins, and they'll be able to try tons of smaller scale experiments. And given effective compute scale-ups by then, smaller scale means being able to train 100,000 GPT level models in a year to try architecture breakthroughs. Some human researchers and engineers are able to produce 10 times the progress as others, even with the same amount of compute, and this should apply even more so to automated AI researchers. I do think this is the most important bottleneck, and I address it in more depth below. So these are possible bottlenecks. One is we have limited compute, even though we have these researchers that are capable beyond any human, and that we have millions of them. The ability to run them is not there. The battery needed is bigger than the one we have. Complementaries. I forget what this word was. Complementaries. Complementaries. Complementarities. So complementarities / long tail. A classic lesson from economics, CF Boomel's growth disease, is that if you can automate, say, 70% of something, you get some gains, but quickly the remaining 30% become your bottleneck. For anything that falls short in full automation, say really good co-pilots, human AI researchers would remain a major bottleneck, making overall increase in the rate of algorithmic progress relatively small. Moreover, there's likely some long tail of capabilities required for automating AI research. The last 10% of the job of an AI researcher might be particularly hard to automate. This could soften takeoff some, though my best guess is that this only delays things by a couple of years. perhaps 2026/27 models speed are the proto-automated researcher. It takes another year or two for some final unhobbling, a somewhat better model, inference speedups, and working out kinks to get to full automation. And finally, by 2028, we get the 10 times acceleration and super intelligence by the end of the decade. So, okay, now I understand what is meant by complementarities. Sorry, the playback was broken, so I will fix that.
Complementarity.
There, now you can hear how it's pronounced. It's pronounced complementarity. I understand what the author means by that. The author means that AI still depends on humans, and humans are not super intelligent. So there's going to be a percentage of things that the AI will do that aren't super intelligent, and that will mean that we will have a large bottleneck. And that exists with ChatGPT. You have to give it a prompt. You have to give it a good prompt. You have to be able to read and implement the prompt. There's a complementarity between ChatGPT and the person using ChatGPT. Imagine if instead of that, ChatGPT prompted you and told you to do things, and there was, there would still be a complementarity, but it would be a pretty large unhobbling that for it to work that way. Because as it is now, you have to give it a prompt, and it doesn't really know much about you. That's kind of one of the reasons for this YouTube channel, to be honest, is like I want myself to exist in places in a larger entity online, because even the advancement I found so far, taking that energy drink has made me so much more productive than not, and my sleep's been good. Everything's been more or less the same. The difference is I'm accomplishing more. I'm able to focus, and you can see that on the output of the channel. So I want there to be insights into myself. So I want to have a online presence, and that was before AI is what it is today. I mean, now, like, I want a full AI analysis, almost like a genetic test. I want an AI analysis of my channel and these videos, and I want it to tell things about me that it can't tell about other people because they don't have this online presence. All right, so let's see here. This could soften takeoff. Okay. So inherent limits to algorithmic progress. Maybe another 5 orders of magnitude of algorithmic efficiency will be fundamentally impossible. I doubt it. While there will definitely be upper limits. If we got 5 orders of magnitude in the last decade, we should probably expect at least another decade's worth of progress to be possible. More directly, current architectures and training algorithms are still very rudimentary, and it seems that much more efficient schemes should be possible. Biological reference classes also support dramatically more efficient algorithms being plausible. All right, so 41, 25 orders of magnitude of algorithmic progress on top of GPT-4, for example, are clearly impossible. That's interesting. That would imply it would be possible to train a GPT-4 level model with just a handful of flop. Okay, so there's a point where it breaks the scale. It's like, the soccer ball grows to the size of, beyond the size of the universe. Like, you can't blow up a soccer ball to be, a billion or a trillion orders of magnitude larger than it is, because it would be larger than the size of the entire universe. Well, I mean, the universe might be infinite in size, but like hopefully it's clear what is meant by that. There's a point where it can't get any bigger, and that's spelled out very clearly here. Inherent limits to algorithmic progress. All right, so and then the author argues against that. The author says that although there are inherent limits to algorithmic progress, we're nowhere even close to that right now. We've got a lot to go. So ideas get harder to find. So the automated AI researchers will merely sustain rather than accelerate the current rate of progress. One objection is that although automated research would increase effective research effort a lot, ideas also get harder to find. That is, while it takes only a few hundred top researchers at a lab to sustain a half order of magnitude per year today, as we exhaust the low-hanging fruit, it will take more and more effort to sustain that progress. And so the 100 million automated researchers will merely be what's necessary to sustain progress. I think this basic model is correct, but the empirics don't add up. The magnitude of the increase in research effort, a millionfold, is way larger than the historical trends of the growth in research effort that's been necessary to sustain progress. In econ modeling terms, it's a bizarre knife-edge assumption to assume that the increase in research effort from automation will be just enough to keep progress constant. Ideas get harder to find, and there are diminishing returns, so the intelligence explosion will quickly fizzle. Related to the above objection, even if the automated AI researchers led to an initial burst of progress, whether rapid progress can be sustained depends on the shape of the diminishing returns curve to algorithmic progress. Again, my best read of the empirical evidence is that the exponents shake out in favor of explosive/accelerating progress. In any case, the sheer size of the one-time boost from 100s to 100s of millions of AI researchers probably overcomes diminishing returns here for at least a good number of OOMs of algorithmic progress, even though it, of course, can't be indefinitely self-sustaining. And my brain is kind of overtaxed, so I'm shutting down the. I've mentioned this before. Sometimes when my brain gets overtaxed, I can read the words, but I don't have that internal deliberation going, so I can't understand what I'm reading. I'm just basically like like singing a song or whatever. I'm not like thinking about like the underlying chord progressions of the song, or like, I'm not engaging with it I'm engaging with it in a different way that's less taxing to my mind, which is a problem. That means I won't really remember what I've read, probably. Overall, these factors may slow things down somewhat. The most extreme versions of intelligence explosion, say overnight, seem implausible. They may result in a somewhat longer run-up. Perhaps we need to wait an extra year or two from more sluggish proto-automated researchers to the true automated Alex Redfords before things kick off in full force. But they certainly don't rule out a very rapid intelligence explosion. A year or two, at most just a few years. A year or at most just a few years, but perhaps even just a few months, in which we go from fully automated AI researchers to vastly superhuman AI systems should be our mainline expectation. Yeah, so okay, so the author suggests that we can skip the in-depth discussions of the bottlenecks and why they're not going to shut this down. But you know what? I think I'm gonna go with that and read the specifics about the bottlenecks. Um, but my mind's kind of shutting down on me to read this more carefully. I'm past the hour mark. That's usually all I'm good for, so that's probably the reason why. So, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.